I made the game in 2 days on Unity as I have nothing better to do. For this I'd need a theme to spark some creativity, and I ended up generating the theme It Spreads. This actually gave me a good idea. Recently this game called RimWorld released a DLC called Anomaly. In this DLC there's something called a flesh mass, and basically what it does is spread across the map. This was pretty much the game idea, except I only have 2 days so I have to scale it down, so it's going to be a strategy game. I put my ideas into extreme detail as you can see, but overall if you can't tell there's going to be white tiles and red tiles. The red ones are infected and the white ones aren't, and you have to keep them from spreading to the white tiles. Anyway, so I didn't have much time so I had to get to it. I started off by creating 2 variations of tiles on A-Sprite, as this would be the main thing you'd be looking at in the game, so I wanted to get it over with first. Then I used Unity's tile map system to get them evenly spread out. I don't really know if this is the most efficient way, but it's the only way I knew. I just want to say, I know the first infected tile isn't on the middle of the screen, but it's impossible to get it in the middle because it's like an even number, so you just have to deal with it, alright? Anyway, so how the game will work is there's a button that you press, and this will make the blocks grow. This is very similar to a turn-based game, as every time you end the turn, it refreshes your abilities. So my first task was to get this button working. Basically how I did this was every time you press the end turn button, it would search for a random infected block on the grid. Once the tile is found, a random side is picked, and if it's empty an infected block would be placed. After an hour of hard work, it should be working. Well, obviously it wasn't going to be working first try, but it'll work next time. Luckily it was an easy fix. I pretty much forgot to make the sprite change, so there were no visuals changing. But now it was finally working. Well, kind of. I pretty much forgot to make it choose a random infected tile, so it would end up going in a straight line until it got to the top right of the screen. This one actually took me a while to figure out as I am blind, but I eventually got there. However, this led me to another bug. Basically, when an infected tile was picked and was surrounded by other infected tiles, it would get stuck as there was nowhere for it to be placed. So I had to make another path for if there was no free sides. But finally, it was working as intended. I did a few tweaks and also made it so it placed multiple blocks in one click, as it was a bit slow placing one. Okay, so now it's time for the first mechanic. Basically, we need a way to stop the infection. Every turn you'll be able to destroy one of the infection blocks. This would give a way to be able to stop it. Also, I'm gonna make it so when you chop it into pieces, it will break off. If you don't really understand what I mean, you will see soon. Anyway, so I got it working as it's pretty simple, as all I'm really doing is finding the tile I'm clicking on, then turning it back to an empty tile. But here's the problem I've been talking about. I wanted it so this segment would be destroyed, as when you cut off your arm, you can't move your arm, can you? So it doesn't really make sense at the moment. I know, that might not be the best way of putting it, but that's how it is. Okay, so I'll admit, I did not know how to do this, so I had to go on YouTube. I didn't copy anything though, but I did find a video to do with A-star pathfinding. I'm not exactly using this, I'm pretty much stealing a segment of code from it, but I don't actually steal the code because I still had to write it myself because it didn't work without the other stuff, but it gave me the inspiration to do it. Anyway, in short, how it works is, it gets an infected tile and then gets the infected tiles that neighbour it, then it puts it in a list and repeats. This works as if there's a gap, then it can't get the neighbouring tile because it's not infected. However, this is probably the most complicated thing I've ever made. This actually took so long that it was the last thing I'd done that day. But I did actually get it working. There was only one problem with the optimization, but I'll bring that up later. Anyway, it was now the second day and I made a list for all the things I wanted to make. I pretty much needed to make a score system as there was no way of really winning. Also there was no way of losing as well. And lastly, it was looking a bit plain, so I wanted to upgrade the visuals a bit. And I had one other thing I wanted to do, which was sound, but I don't actually end up doing this. I wish I wasn't busy on these 2 days because I could have got a lot more done. First things first, I made a new sprite for the starting infection so you'd know where it is. Because when there's loads of infected tiles, it's basically impossible to know where the first one was. And as I was doing visuals, I decided to make some lighting. I did this as the white tiles were starting to burn my eyes. Also the lighting made it feel a bit more 3D. If you don't like it, well, I don't really care, alright? It's my game. I forgot to mention I made a boundary. So basically when the infection hits the tile, you lose the game. I will make the boundary smaller as I realised how slow the game is. The next thing I wanted to do was make the game more performant, as calling it laggy is kind of an understatement. I can't lie, I thought this would take me 10 minutes, but it did actually end up taking an hour to do. My first idea on why it was lagging was because of duplicates in the list. Basically, when I was getting the neighbouring tiles, I forgot to check if they were already in the list, but I didn't actually figure this out until later. But for now, I did find this guy on a forum, and it allowed me to make a new list which got rid of all of the duplicates. But the only problem with this, I still had that list with duplicates which were making my game lag, so it only fixed the problem a bit. To fix this problem, when it was finding the neighbouring tiles, it would check if it was already in the list, and if it was, it wouldn't be added. This sounds like it should work, right? Well no, it like got rid of some of them. I still don't even know why, it doesn't make sense to me. I can't lie, I did give up on that for a while, but I do fix it later, I promise. But instead, at that time, I just made the boundaries smaller. I think it's time for me to move on to something else. I've been doing that for a bit too long. So now it was time to add the score system. This was simple, thank God, and it just added 1 point every time you destroyed a tile. So how the game would work is you just get points from destroying tiles, and you just try beating your score every time. I know it's very simple, but what can I say? I have 2 days. The last thing I needed for it to be a working game is a way of losing. Once again, I made this very simple because I did not have much time left. For context, I was doing stuff all day and I got back at like 7 PM. And I also had school the next day, so there was not much I could do. If you haven't noticed, there has been this disgusting button on the bottom of the screen, so I decided to make a proper sprite for it. I also tried animating it, but it doesn't really work properly, because when you click it, it doesn't go back to normal. If you know how to fix this, just tell me please, I'm begging. I haven't really showed it, but at the moment you can click as many times as you want to get rid of the tiles. I've done this because of testing reasons, and I'm lazy, but now it's time to fix this. So now it was really a turn-based game. Okay, so it's now time. I finally managed to get it optimized. Remember when I used the thing to check if something was in the list? Well, I just used this again, but in a slightly different place, and it was finally now working. So now the game was, well, gaming. However, there was so many other things I wanted to add. This included sound, effects, new abilities, but who knows, maybe I'll return, maybe I can do this again. Could add some more stuff, you know? You just need to subscribe for me, please, and I'll do some more, please, subscribe, right now, do it now, right now, please.